Because as Jesus' preeminence has been shown, it is now being demonstrated in and through the lives. That only happens as they and as we would be focusing on him and allowing everything in our lives to stem from that focus. And that's important to know, because understand that in this world that we live in, and I don't have to tell you this, there are so many things that are vying for our attention. There's so many things that are seeking after our attention, that are seeking to draw us and to wrap us up in. And I know that as the church, we always talk about, the struggle that we have with sin and the flesh, and that is definitely seeking our attention. The flesh is always seeking to find a way to please self and to get what oneself wants in the natural and sinful state. And Paul will talk about that in a moment. But understand, even the things that are inherently good, or you could say that are morally neutral, well, those are things as well to address and need to be addressed by the follower of Christ. Things like marriage, for example, or dating, or singleness. You could think of parenting or grandparenting, career, education, perhaps retirement if you're in that stage of life. You can even think of hobbies and friendships, money. These are things, the list really could go on, again, that are not inherently sinful in and of themselves. In fact, most of these things are morally neutral parts of lives. They are things that we deal with day in and day out. But understand that as believers in Jesus Christ, there has to be an intentional shift in our lives where these things, again, though they are part of our lives, they don't become the central aim and identity that our lives are wrapped up in. And that's very important to understand. It's very important to understand, and it's so easy to get into that mindset when you deal with these things. You think of marriage, like when you're married, or perhaps you desire to be married. That can be very easily the greatest aim in your mind. That can be, who am I going to marry? Or you look at your spouse and you think, they hung the moon, and perhaps they did, but hey, they are not the Lord's. Or parenting and grandparenting, it can become easy to wrap your identity up in that, much like, it could be with a career or with education. That becomes who you are. You set your entire life upon that, and it becomes your identity. But understand, as believers in Jesus Christ, we aren't to set our affections on those things, making them our aim and main pursuits. Or perhaps they were before Jesus Christ. That was your main thing, but then you got saved, and now you're thinking to yourself, okay, I've got to find a way to fit Jesus into this, right? It's like, okay, well, I got married, then I got saved, and now how's Jesus going to fit in here? Or, hey, I've been working and doing this thing, looking for a career path, and I have it, but now I'm saved, so I got to find Jesus and have him fit in there. But understand, that's the wrong mentality. That's the wrong way to go about it, because understand, we are to set our affections on Jesus and seek him first, and then let everything else flow through that. See, Jesus is to be the one who we seek and set our affections upon. He is the one that we make our chief aim, and the one who we wrap our identity up in, and understands our lives are identified with him. And these things, as they are part of life, they need to be navigated in and through the lens of Scripture and through the leading of Jesus, as he, again, is the one whose preeminence in our lives. Putting it simply, we seek and set our minds on Christ. And then we allow him to direct us.